Last week, I analyzed every single top performing creative for our clients over the last 3 months, and we had some incredible learnings about what's working today on Meta ads. And they weren't working because they were UGC or founders ads or any other type of ad format. They worked because they were tapping into deep psychological triggers that cause people to act immediately. I'm going to break down exactly what those triggers are and how you can use them in your own ad creative. Let me know what your brand or product is, and I will personally tell you which psychological trigger you should be using in your ad creative. All right, let's get into it. So trigger number 1 is to challenge their belief system. So we actually ran an ad really similar to this one that ended up becoming a top performer for our client. This ad directly challenges a belief that someone has about why they think the product won't work for them. The belief being that the person in the ad was only able to get the results because of their genetics. Now, just having good genes in general is a great belief to challenge in your ad creative, but you can do this for any type of belief that your customers might have about themselves or even about the product. Because when you introduce information that conflicts with a belief that someone might have, it actually creates the feeling of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort that someone experiences when their beliefs directly oppose new information being presented. So to reduce that comfort, the brain has to pay attention, either to reject the new info, to rationalize it, or to actually form a new belief. That's why it's such a powerful trigger in marketing. Our brains literally crave that resolution, so people are going to stay longer to complete that loop. This is honestly a pretty big unlock for my team and generated a ton of great brainstorming. And I actually found some ChatGPT prompts that you can use to learn more about the limiting beliefs that your customers have, not only about themselves, but also about the products. I actually thought it was really interesting to look at the different types of limiting beliefs from millennial moms to Gen Z women and even to 55 plus women. It just showed me how generationally people have really different concerns and how a wide range of businesses can and often do tap into these in their marketing. Knowing and leaning into this type of content is excellent for your messaging, specifically in ad angles as well as your hooks. Trigger number 2, loss framing and contrast bias through failed attempts. So when going through several of our top performers this time, we actually realized that a lot of them were starting off by going through the failed attempts that potential customers had gone through before finding our product or service. Problem solution ads work really well, but what I've found that works even better is when you show the failed attempts that people have tried to get over that problem. Essentially, these failed attempts showcase that loss of money, time, and resources. And the second thing that it does is it invites in a contrast bias. So typically as humans, we don't evaluate things in isolation. We actually like to compare them. A product is going to seem better, cheaper, tastier, and just more trustworthy when placed next to another product. So when we are exploring these failed attempts, we are literally playing into that loss aversion while also comparing it to things that already didn't work in the past, making our product or solution that much more viable and enticing for someone. My advice here too is to showcase the visuals of those failed attempts and the emotions associated with them. So if you are advertising for a green supplement like AG1, be sure to showcase all of the pills and supplements that someone used to have to use to get all of those nutrients and vitamins before going with AG1. These clips were sourced using Storyblocks, who is a longtime friend of this channel and also the sponsor of today's video. They have millions of instant video clips, images, and templates that don't feel like AI. It's 100% legal for commercial use, even in ads, unlike some AI tools. To get unlimited downloads for one flat rate, check out storyblocks.com/Daradeni. Now, I've actually made a few ads recently using some of their time-lapse videos. I'm really excited to test these out because these are also based on another psychological trigger, which is us wanting to complete the loop once we start it. So yes, be sure to try out some of your ad creative by showcasing these failed attempts front and center, because it's also going to create that open loop that people are going to want to close by figuring out what actually worked worked for you. Trigger number 3 is the authority bias. People are hardwired to trust and follow the advice of perceived experts, especially in industries or with products where they feel really uncertain or overwhelmed with the amount of information, or when the specific product has to do with their individual person. So think things like health, money, or even beauty. Now, there are so many different types of authorities that you could use in your advertising, but I actually think the better question to ask yourself is, hey, who does my audience trust? Who do they admire? Who do they want validation from? We had one winning ad creative this last quarter for a skincare brand that was with a dermatologist. I feel like that is a very obvious example. But then we had another one that featured an angle from a new mom who wanted to get approval from her mother-in-law. This is another really great thing to brainstorm on and to use ChatGPT to figure out what types of authorities your customer really trusts. And again, this was another really cool thing to map out from Gen Z, from millennial to 55 plus, to really see how they value different experts almost entirely. Now, a way you can supercharge that authority bias is to pair it with trigger number 4, which is overcoming objections. So your customers are going to have reasons for days why to not buy your product or service. And when you develop content directly calling out those reasons, you're going to end up doing 3 things for your audience. Number 1, you're going to reduce that cognitive pressure. You're going to reduce that cognitive dissonance. You're going to reduce that discomfort that they have. And you're also going to build trust using empathy. You're going to really showcase, hey, you know what? We know that you're thinking about this and we've also been there. So here's why. And then number 3, potentially most important, you can actually reframe that objection as a benefit. I actually see this most commonly when it comes to price. If there's a price objection, I actually think this is probably the most common objection that I see right now. So I think that this is a type of ad creative that nearly any brand should try making. Now, if you're interested in learning more about overcoming objections, I actually have a YouTube video that goes through my exact process that I use to make this type of ad creative. It's actually one of the first types of ads that I like to make when onboarding a brand, because I've found that we're able to often get winners from this style of content. And then trigger number 5, a combination of social proof and scarcity. Now, this is probably one of the most popular psychological triggers in advertising, which is why I wanted to make sure to include it in this video. Now, the use of social proof triggers our herd instinct. So if we see others, specifically others like us, are loving the product, then we automatically trust the source of this product a lot more. And what I'll say is social proof should absolutely be an aspect of your ad, or at least your landing page, but it's very likely not going to be the focal point of a meta ads creative, especially for Americans, because we really love individuality as a society. And I've found that putting that proof and numbers front and center doesn't actually tend to get people over the finish line or be that scalable as an asset. However, we still do want that trust factor. We still do want to know that we're making the right decision. And I have found that when working with a specific type of demographic, say 55 plus or moms, you want to make sure to frame your social proof with that lens. Now, the scarcity bit is interesting, right? Because it's also going to be tapping into our loss aversion. And I wanted to bring this one up because I've noticed that with celebrity brands launching, there's actually a tactic that they are using for nearly all of their launch strategies where they are facilitating a sellout of the product. So Michaela Noguera, really big beauty influencer, she launched POV Beauty earlier this spring, and this summer Paige DeSorbo launched Daphne, her sleepwear brand. Both of these sold out, and it is my belief that that was the whole strategy. As soon as they launched, they knew they were going to sell out. And I think in the end, it's a really good thing. And this is the new playbook for celebrity brands. Now, each of these launched with a lot of hype, but also with a little bit of negative publicity, which is totally normal when a celebrity is launching a brand. However, I found it was really, really interesting that the narrative really quickly turned to, hey, these brands still sold out upon launch, which means that they must be doing something right. Even though, with marketers, and my light just went out, even though us marketers know, hey, that was actually probably the strategy from the beginning. And that's it for today. I'll see you guys next week. Love you. Bye.